The Ram 1500 has taken Australia by storm, essentially creating this new jumbo truck segment where there simply wasn't one there before. In fact, Ram sold almost 2,700 of these in 2019 alone. And I know they're not Toyota HiLux figures, but for a truck that starts at almost 80 grand and is absolutely massive, it is an impressive result. So impressive, in fact, that other manufacturers have started to notice. The Chevrolet Silverado 1500 will soon launch in Australia, and the Nissan Titan, Ford F-150 and Toyota Tundra are all being studied for our market too. All of which means Ram cannot afford to rest on its laurels, which brings us to why we're here today. This is the American 2020 Ram 1500 Eco Diesel, and it's fitted with the third generation of the brand's V6 diesel engine, which produces more power, more torque, more everything really than the vehicle currently being sold in Australia. So we've come all the way to LA to put it to the test so you know what to look forward to. But first, please do hit subscribe to stay on top of all of our latest videos and go to the CarsGuide.com.au website to read my full review on this car and thousands of others.
What you're looking at here is the 2020 Ram 1500, now codenamed the DT in the USA, where it sits above the existing DS, which is now called the Classic. In Australia, the DT is yet to touch down, but it is expected to arrive later in 2020, coronavirus willing of course, so consider this something of a taste test for what's to come. There's better technology, better materials, more grunt and a more car-like ride quality, and yet the 2020 Ram 1500 also maintains some of our favourite features.
Now I know you're already pretty familiar with the big beefcake exterior of the Ram 1500, but I did want to take a moment to highlight one thing that I think is pretty cool. This is what the brand calls a Ram box. There's one on either side of the bed, and it's basically an extra storage space for you to throw your things and retrieve them quickly without having to go through the bed itself. Now there's a power point, and it's big enough and deep enough to put your tools in or things like that. But a better idea is to fill it with ice, drinks, then next time you're out camping, surfing, fishing, whatever, you've got cold drinks when you want them. And because it's got these little rubber plugs inside too, you can simply pull them out, drain the water, put the plug back in, and you're on your way. Now I know that's only a little thing, but I do think it's clever, and I think it's something you will get a lot of use out of.
Ram has made a big deal about making its new 1500 as car-like as possible, essentially ditching the tough, rugged image for something a little more luxurious and tech-focused. And I've got to say, they've largely succeeded. The new 1500 doesn't look or feel anything even approaching agricultural inside or out. There's plenty of features, of course: Apple CarPlay, premium materials, adaptive cruise control, AEB and blind spot monitoring. There's available air suspension, and Ram is promising twice the interior storage of its closest competitors. But happily, none of that appears to have come at the cost of capability. Ram says this eco diesel will tow 5.7 tonnes, carry around a tonne, and essentially drive up anything you care to point its mammoth nose at. And just as importantly, you'll be able to do all of that in comfort.
First thing you notice about the Ram 1500's cabin is probably pretty obvious, and that is the fact that it is massive. I mean, you could play football on this armrest here, it's ridiculous. But the second thing you notice is that it does appear to be really well thought out. There are storage options everywhere. Because they've moved the shifter to this little rotary dial next to the driver's knee, it frees up the entire center console area for storage, and there is heaps of it. There are sliding trays with cup holders with deeper bins underneath, places to store your mobile. There are cubby holes everywhere in this thing. And it's pretty tech friendly in here too. I gotta say, I love this screen. It's 12 inches, laid out portrait style, really clear, easy to use, and it covers everything from your smartphone mirroring to your navigation, even your aircon controls. And there's no shortage of places to plug your devices in too. There's USB outlets, power points, you name it, you can charge it.
Okay, so let's talk about this engine. This is the third generation of Ram's 3-litre diesel V6, and it's now pumping out some 194 kilowatts and 650 newton meters, which is fed through an 8-speed automatic gearbox. The engine we currently get in Australia, on the other hand, that's good for 179 kilowatts and 569 newton meters. And that is a sizable jump in grunt. If you're a math whiz, you'll know that's an increase of 8% and 14% respectively, with the gains owing to a new turbocharger, redesigned cylinder heads, and an updated exhaust gas recirculation system. Better still, it will only drink a claimed 9.8 litres per 100 kilometres on the combined cycle in 4-wheel drive models, which is pretty impressive for a car this big.
Now I know Ram in Australia has just launched a diesel version of the 1500, but critically they haven't launched this version. This is the third generation of the Eco Diesel V6. It offers more power, more torque, more capability, more everything really. And I know when you think about big trucks in Australia, you're probably thinking about a big V8 petrol engine, right? But I can tell you that this diesel offers more than enough grunt to move this thing around. Sure, it's not lightning quick and it lacks some of the sort of oral fanfare that I suppose you get from a petrol V8, but it does what it's supposed to do. It moves this thing around with ease. It never feels underpowered. I guess the other critical point is that it doesn't feel like a truck from behind the wheel. There's nothing agricultural about the drive experience. The materials are nice, the cabin tech's on point, the gearbox is super smooth. It doesn't feel like you're driving a workhorse. In fact, it feels, dare I say it, almost premium. Now, I must admit, I was one of those people in Australia who really wasn't sure that big trucks would work down under. I just didn't think our roads and parking spaces were big enough for them, really. But I guess I've been proven wrong. The success of Ram's certainly done that. But over here in America, God, this thing just makes so much sense. The spaces are bigger, the roads are bigger, and you really don't even notice that you're driving a big truck at all. And the credit has to go to Ram for that, because they've done a really good job of hiding the bulk of this thing from behind the wheel. The steering's nice and light and easy. Really doesn't feel any different from driving a bigger HiLux. So, downsides. The diesel engine is a little noisy. You can definitely hear it droning into the cabin under acceleration. But also there's just the sheer size of this thing. Yes, you can very easily forget about it when you're on the open road, but you do get some reminders, namely when you're trying to navigate a car park or perform a three-point turn. There are a few nervous moments from behind the wheel because you can't really see the edges nor properly judge them. That said, if you own the car, I'm sure you get used to that pretty quickly and you know exactly what you were doing. But for me, there were a couple of nervous moments as I was trying to navigate tighter spots. So how do you sum it up? Well, think of it like the current Ram 1500, just a little bit more. More power, more torque, more tech, just more. Please do hit subscribe to stay on top of all of our latest videos and go to the carsguide.com.au website to read my full review on this car and thousands of others.